This is Energy Perspectives, a weekly podcast produced in Guyana that delves into the developments unfolding in the world's fastest growing economy.
Hi there. Welcome to this week's episode of the Energy Perspectives podcast. I am your hostess, CEO of the Guyana Energy Conference and Supply Chain Expo, Kiana Wilberg. Today, it is my privilege and honor to interview the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali. Mr. President, welcome to our program.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mr. President, there are a number of issues I'd like to touch for our discussion today, but I want to start first by examining the global context of growth, the environment in which Guyana operates in. We often hear that Guyana is the fastest growing economy in the world, but we don't operate in a silo. We are deeply connected to a global market that is still recovering from a number of issues, and it's only projected to remain on a steady growth path of 2.7%. What does this broader outlook mean for Guyana and how your government will be managing the affairs?
Well, first of all, the world and the global economy is changing rapidly. There are trade challenges, there are climate challenges, there's a redirection of investment in many corners of the world. And of course, a lot of what happens globally depends on the cost of energy and what happens in the energy market. And we have seen various global players having outlined different strategy in terms of energy. The new U.S. government, for example, has made it very clear that they are going to ramp up their energy production.
Yes.
And they're also in very strong negotiations with major producers in the Middle East on the increase in production, and of course increase in supply would impact price. And the whole objective is to bring the price down for crude oil and of course gas and so on. So we have to be aware of these policy interventions, these trade interventions, and ensure that we plan ahead of the interventions, that all of these interventions are taken into our expenditure profile, they're taken into our revenue projections, and that is what we have been communicating to the Guyanese people from day one. That is, we have to be responsible in the way we manage the resources from oil and gas. And that is why it is so critical for us to pursue economic diversification and build out the other segments and sectors of our economy, so that in times of shock or in times when the revenue is affected based on the global pricing mechanism, that the economy can withstand those shocks based on the different pillars of growth, the different pillars through which economic prosperity is built. And that's the first point and a very important point. The second important point here is that we live in a region that we have to constantly evaluate and look for opportunities within the region itself. How do we ensure that the development path and the investment in infrastructure not only create new areas of growth locally, but how is it linked to the expansion of growth within the region itself? For example, when you look at the Linden to Mabura Hill roadways, when you look at the connection with northern Brazil, the type of opportunities that will bring to add to the value chain of gas in the near future. And not only gas at Wales, but the second more expansive gas development that we're pursuing. Where will the new areas of growth be created? How do we leverage the raw production in northern Brazil in LATAM and convert that raw production into value-added goods for the rest of the region. We have seen in Trinidad and Tobago during their oil boom, a lot of manufacturing and packaging and agro-processing businesses or industry went to Trinidad because of the cost of energy that was very competitive. And as a result, they were able to dominate the regional market in these areas. So now, with the cost of energy coming down for Guyana this year, we have to start planning on the type of transport and logistics development that will be required. We have to look at not only the major industry, the large industries, but look at all the micro and medium-sized enterprises that can be developed out of this great potential when energy price will come down. And with the education program that we're investing in, to have the human resource skill set, that of course will be available to stimulate these small and medium-sized enterprises that must also benefit from this economic diversification and expansion. For that to occur, we also have to do things at scale. That is why we are investing at scale in food production, agriculture, so that we can have the raw material to feed into the value added or value creation. Because throughout the production line, you're able to create additional wealth, create additional jobs, and higher sorry. And higher scale jobs. And that is important for us. So coming back to how this fits into the global scenario. So the global scenario and the type of policies and shift that we expect globally must be absorbed by the economy. And the only way it can be absorbed is if we build out the economy in a wide, expansive way through which economic growth and prosperity is on many legs. And that is what we are pursuing. The other issue that I think we have to focus on globally is that of food prices. Now, the US, of course, is a major producer of food. When you look at the recent reports, as a result of the policy on illegal migrants in the US, what we have seen in the last couple of weeks is very low workers turnout in the farms. And this, of course, would have an impact on production. With the weather pattern and weather conditions also in different regions in the world, there is a very high possibility that grains and important commodities, food commodity, will suffer from different degree of shock this year and some projection into next year. That will definitely affect, first of all, production, supply, especially in a period where there's growth in global demand for food, and that can impact prices. So we have to also ensure that looking ahead, that we build our local food production chain in such a sustainable and resilient way that we are able also to withstand these shocks. And that is why we are investing with young people heavily in agro-processing. We're investing heavily in hydroponics, using science and technology. And all of this is not only to create local opportunity, but it is to respond to global challenges. So when we are building the economy here, it's not built in isolation of the global challenges. It is not built in isolation of the realities globally. For example, we know that, and everyone knows that they, we went through a long period where capital for energy projects was drying up or becoming more expensive. And that was because of a policy position globally. With the new US administration, we hope that there will be greater appetite for lending for energy project, and the cost of that financing will be more manageable because the cost was ramping up. Those are key issues. You also have to always keep an eye on global inflation, because global inflation affects everyone. So if you have tariffs on global goods, most naturally, those prices are going to increase for the global market. Similarly, if there is increase in transportation costs, and we have not seen any structural move in terms of global transport costs. For a matter of fact, it has gone up back after COVID. It came down back a bit, and then it went up back. And this also carries great implications in terms of global inflation. Of course, you know, we have targeted measures to help the importers against this. In the way the duty and so is calculated, it's calculated on the old freight rate, pre-COVID freight rate. Up to now, we have not touched that, so that additional cost is not passed on to the consumer. So we are taking measures. The other thing we have to do also, I'll show you how the budget is linked to these challenges. Our costs for shipping goes up in Guyana because a lot of transshipment has to occur for us, because a large ship cannot come in the Demerara Channel, because the Demerara Channel does not have the draft. So let us say you have a 40,000 ton ship that can bring in feed at a low cost. They have to transship that in maybe 5 ships to have a 7,000 draft, right? A 7-meter draft. So these are the challenges. So in the budget, you will see we have earmarked resources to deal with this issue. We are working now with the private sector to have a model that would have a long-term solution to this issue of dredging and the issue of having a draft that is consistently, that is at low tide and high tide, at 7 meter, so that large ships can come in. That is important also as we seek to invest in infrastructure that reduces the costs of commodity and ultimately benefit the consumers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Quite a lot to unpack there, but it was an important explanation for persons, especially our audience, to understand how the policy positions of the government is not just tailored for the issues within our 83,000 square miles, but it takes into account the global context that we're facing today. And I want to hone in now on the Guyana context. Your government has implemented policies which no one can dispute do drive sustainable development, and there are other policies which increase disposable income. I want to just give an example quickly for the benefit of our audience. The government last year announced for the first time a one-off payment of 100,000 Guyana dollars for citizens 18 years and older. And just recently, another announcement was made for a $100,000 cash grant for all newborn babies to Guyanese moms. Now, these are some really new ways in which you are going about socioeconomic development and transformation. Can you tell our audience what we can look forward to in your second term? And I say this confidently, given the policy positions that you've implemented so far. What can we expect in terms of your balancing of infrastructural needs and socioeconomic development?
Well, Kiana, the two go hand in hand to a large extent. And I'll tell you why. You see, there has been many debates globally on the investment in infrastructure and investment in social services. But the fact is, both go hand in hand. So if we don't build the hospitals and we don't invest in modern healthcare from an infrastructure perspective, then how can we deliver modern healthcare? How can the people benefit from modern healthcare? If we don't build a technical facility, for example, the National Skills Training Center in Bordeaux, that's more than $100 million US investment. How are we going to prepare our young minds to benefit from the opportunities? If we don't build the 4-lane bridge across the Demerara River, we're using hundreds of thousands of man hours every month out of productive capacity. We are impeding development. If we don't build the road to Brazil, and if we did not do those bridges, how are we going to benefit from this long-held aspiration that we can be the greatest connector of northern Brazil to the rest of the region and rest of the world, and benefit from that flow of investment and opportunity? If we don't create the airstrips and the roads in the interior, how are we going to build our tourism product? How are we going to create the incentive or incentivize investment in these areas? So quality education, quality healthcare. If you go in the markets and people want to shop in better sanitary condition, better facilities, you have to build the markets. So it really go hand in hand. So the infrastructure investment that we are investing in as a government is not only about building roads, it's about increasing, improving forest the condition, improving living standards, increasing the net asset value of individuals, homes, and communities. Because when you create these infrastructure, the value of your home goes up. You can take out a higher loan on your house. You can then use that resources to invest in the economy. And then when you look at the housing program, the house lots that we give at low income, middle income, low middle income, moderate income, they're all heavily subsidized. Heavily subsidized. So you may have a house lot that you pay $500,000 for, but the valuation on that lot is $7 million. So that is how we transfer. That's how we transfer wealth and value to the ordinary people. And when you look at the housing program, less than 10% of the development goes to commercial and private developers. And the resources that we get from selling those lands, the private developers and commercial land, goes into the pool with government resources to cross-subsidize the development for the ordinary person. You remember, Kiana, you were in the media. When I was Minister of Housing, I was accused of giving the poor people the backlands. And I explained the very concept that we are locating them in close proximity to high-value development. So one, they get the additional value from cross-subsidization, but they also get the additional value from proximity to high-impact development. And I also said that the backlands will be the frontlands, and people laughed. in Parliament. I recall vividly you were there.
Yes.
A question was asked, and when I said that, there was laughter from the opposition benches. But we knew that in the planning, we left the road that would be the new 4-lane highway, and those would be front lands because there was a clear, whenever we plan the housing development, it is not only about developing house lots, it's about a clear strategy as to how we can create the maximum wealth for every segment of allottees, the young professionals, the low-income earners, and how we integrate them into the opportunities that the housing development will create. Look at where the industrial zone is located in Eccles, and you will see it's where close proximity to lower income earners, so they can get jobs there. They have less transportation costs, right? They have less transportation costs, greater propensity to save, right? They can go back home and deal with their children so that they don't have to spend money on daycare. So it's carefully planned. These things are not done in a vacuum. These things are done with great analysis. And of course, people don't see that. They just see the development. They don't see the work that goes on in the background that is carries with it sleepless nights. So these are the type. I think that this year, when you look at the cross subsidization and the wealth transfer to normal allottees in the housing program, it's a value of more than $90 billion. That is the additional wealth that it creates. Then look, let's move on now to some other initiatives. Let us look at the initiative for cervical cancer. Remember last year, to do the testing and then the treatment. It was not only about getting women tested. It was about important baseline data that is required for public health planning and public health expenditure. Because if you don't have the baseline data, how is it you're going to determine what treatment is best? And similarly this year, when we put that voucher, the universal health voucher, in the budget, it is about the next generation and tailoring our public health care system to meet the challenges of our specific conditions in Guyana. So when you have this universal health voucher and we have the baseline data, we know what percentage of the population, or we know what we'll have data to verify what is happening in terms of diabetes, what is happening in terms of your pressure issues, your cholesterol. So now the public healthcare system, the public health education system, and public expenditure in healthcare can be streamlined even in a greater way to meet the current and future challenges. We can also predetermine what the future challenges will be and take corrective action early on. So it helps us also. So these policies are deep. They're not, when you look at the $100,000 for every child, you can make a lot of memes on social media, but when you go deep into this, we look at what are the challenges, facing young mothers, and they think about when you get your baby, before making a baby, the first few months, very challenging. So this expenditure helped in that period. So whilst we are building a maternity and children hospital that will be state of the art, and we are investing and upgrading all the other facilities across the region, we are also helping at the individual level. It is also linked to the fact that we cannot create disincentive to population growth. We have to create incentive to population growth because we are underpopulated. And if you look at the build out of the economy in the future, we need to get back persons in our diaspora home. We need to build the population set of the country. And if you look at the reality, today we have more young people pursuing, which is good, professional aspirations. They're pursuing professional goals, both men and women, more so women, and they are delaying decisions on a family, getting children. So you have to look at what is the new age that persons are making that decision, and understand that trend, because it has implications. Many countries are going through that phase now.
So you find that's a trend in Guyana?
Well, I don't have enough data, but I can say that among professionals, I would say if you look at the desktop study, it's a trend. I mean, there are three of us in this room. If we go through ourselves, like my first child was in my late 30s. So that trend needs to be analyzed. Importantly, if you notice what is happening in many large countries, either they have a very old population set that you have to provide a lot of social services for, and you don't have that middle population is missing, that has to work in the economy and drive the economy. So these things may sound far-fetched for us, but when you look at the development of our country and look at what is taking place from a transformative infrastructure perspective, and when you look at what is taking place from planning perspective, what will be required in the future, we have to take all of these things into consideration. And we have to develop policies now that are aligned to what the future needs of our economy will be. The type of investment we are making in hospitality services, we have to start working towards getting 3 million people passing through this economy by 2030, so that we can create and upkeep the demand for the supply that will be available on the market. And that is why we have to pursue the expansion of our tourism market and all of these things. Then, if you look at the way in which we are investing in the budget, this year budget, a lot of the focus is on community infrastructure, building community wealth, creating stronger communities. As simple as the lights in the grounds. Now, that may look like a simple project, lights in the ground, but you have now the opportunity of having a more active population in terms of utilizing these public spaces in the evening, exercise, health and wellness, mental health. These are important issues that we will face, that we are facing, and will face in a deeper way. If you look at the percentage share of budget on mental health globally, you will see it's increasing rapidly. And we have to create the conditions that address mental health from a societal perspective. And, the style that we live in and the conditions that we live in can positively impact issues of mental health. Then when you look at where we have to be as a country, with the type of development that is taking place, and if we want to be competitive globally, it's very clear that we can't do so in a straight line manner. We have to invest and use technology to the best. Yes, there will be, you know, kinks along the way, but we have to manage that. So we have to apply the best technology and work backwards and bring the population. I'll give you an example. They're now going through the testing phase for the electronic gates and the filling up the immigration form in electronic way. And during the testing phase, the challenge is one, there need to be more education on the program because a lot of older persons come from the diaspora, especially comes in, and that requires more support for them. So they have to be a customer-oriented style of immigration to back that digitization and technology process to help these persons. There has to be more awareness from the airlines on how you help these persons to, even whilst they're waiting in the at the gate to fill up online, and how you use it. Because if you have the code on your phone, and when you come in, your phone is dead, or you know, you don't know how to use the code, then it's a challenge. So these things come because it was a rapid transformation. It also requires our human asset, our human resources at the airport. And for example, I had a discussion with Ramesh, the CEO, to be more proactive too in educating. Otherwise, people can be frustrated. And as we migrate more of our services to digital platform, we're going to take away human biases from the system. Because if there's a formula that calculates your duties and there's a digital trail, then there's no human bias there. So, of course, people can say, what about the data that you input? But we're going ahead of that now. For example, we have just drafted a program with the US on bringing in scanners, world-class scanners, at all our port facilities. So let us say you're coming into Guyana, and this will happen before the end of the year. It's very clear. You fill up your immigration form, your custom form digitally, no hassle. You come in, every bag must go through the scanner. And if there is a false, so we have to amend the law. If there is a false declaration that is made electronically, because everything now is stored and everything there can be audited electronically, and there's a false declaration, then you must have a very high fine that follows that. So, and this is for everything coming in and going out. This we also want on the ports, because safety and security and confidence in our ports and security system is key and critical for investment confidence, and also for the confidence of persons in the diaspora coming back home. The systems must work. And this is very important for me. We want to build systems that work, systems that are modern, systems that add to accountability and transparency, and systems that enables us to drive the economy forward.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to take you back to one of the many important points that you raised, and that is the importance of infrastructural development. Now, we've seen with successive budgets, critical investments made towards this end. Given the agenda and the vision that you have for Guyana, how wide is the infrastructure deficit, and what percentage of that do you think our four successive budgets have addressed?
Well, we have started to address critical infrastructure that is linked to economic expansion, creation of new wealth, the support to the agriculture sector, and of course the efficiency in the transport system. The major infrastructure and we have started the bridges and so on, but the gap is enormous to do what we want to achieve as a country. We have to have the critical link. I mean, let's start from our link to Suriname. That bridge is very critical. It opens up a whole new host of opportunity for us.
Right.
When you look at the development that we're going to do at Palmyra, it is my estimation that somewhere in Berbice, we will need to have a municipal airport like Ogle. You will have to have the development of a municipal airport. Then the plans of bringing the second gas development to Berbice, Region 6.
Yes.
That is going to be massive. That will have a number of off-takers, maybe a huge industrial zone. We will have massive, at scale, investments. We'll have power plants. So that will create a whole ecosystem by itself. That is why the municipal airport. You'll have private investment in real estate and everything there in Berbice. And that, of course, lends its way now to a massive investment in a deep water port. We have to build that deep water port. And that deep water port, that's will carry, I think, a decent price tag. And we are already looking at that. That is part of the plan. And then when you come over to Region 5, we definitely have to also expand the roadways, focus heavily on agriculture production, modernization of the agricultural system. Of course, Region 5 is closely connected to Region 4 and then 6 with the development that will take place in Region 6.
Wow.
Then you come on the East Bank, you look at the Enmore development zone, the industrial development zone and manufacturing. We already have a number of major proposals for expansion there. Look at Bank CIH. They've already announced that they're going to expand massively. And then you come, you look at the whole housing development. Well, the Region 4 story, I don't have to tell you that.
Right.
And then when you look at the west side of the Demerara River, you see the expansion that is taking place there. New shore bases, new port facilities, the MOF, the gas to shore project, the new power plant, and all the added investment. The new Demerara River Bridge. I forgot to tell you the new Berbice River Bridge, the 4-lane bridge also that will be connected. Then you have the connection to Region 10, the Wisma Bridge. We're looking now at the new all-weather access road to Sand Hills that will connect you directly into Bartica Region 7, going all the way to the hinterland, developing Region 7 into a major tourism and mining hub with all the support services. We have two major mines, large-scale mines that will come into operation by 2027, 2028. So Bartica will be, Region 7 will be a major aspect, and Region 10 to support those investment and initiative. We're also looking at proposals now to resuscitate the Troy resources, that Troy mines. And then you have, so all of this. And then you have, of course, a road going to Brazil, connected to the deep water port.
Yeah.
The development, we have to develop another municipal airport at Lethem because there's tremendous potential there. And then when you go all the way to Region 3, well, that's already unfolding, massive development. I spoke about Wales. Region 2, connected to Region 3. The Essequibo River and Demerara River, building it out for tourism, investing heavily in agriculture production, ensuring that the access to the internet and everything, communication, that we're investing across the board to support all of that. Linden investing heavily in making Linden an important service town. not only for the mining, but forestry, bauxite, expanding bauxite, looking now at the possibility that may very well become real. That's an aluminium plant in we're taking our reserve at Suriname and Guyana, and with cheaper energy coming in. And then the possibility of what exists on Suriname side with their own development to have great partnership. So it's an exciting. I'm not even telling you about the Del Conte Road that will open up new lands for agriculture, new lands for housing, because as you know, we have already maximized the land availability for housing along the coast. So these are the what I would say. These are just the tip of the iceberg
Goodness of what's needed.
of what is needed. You look at the airport, we already have to go to Terminal 2, Phase 2. We're taking the 4-lane road all the way to the highway. The Linden Soosnaik Highway is under reconstruction, Silica City. So it's an exciting future, but it's infrastructure that is linked structurally to economic expansion, growth, integration, and the building out of our economy beyond our borders.
Mr. President, that was indeed very comprehensive, and you are correct. That really sounds as though we're still in the very early innings of truly transforming Guyana's infrastructural plane and our landscape. To close our program, Mr. President, I want to hone in on your mention of the Gas to Energy project, which is poised to be one of the most transformative initiatives of your first term. And we're now looking to activate phase 2, as you said, having this done quite soon. What is your message to the global players in the downstream market, and what is about to unfold in Guyana where gas is concerned?
So in the downstream, I think there are some opportunities here. First, our local private sector. We want to ensure that we can leverage to the maximum local capital, local private sector, local individuals. So we want to work on a strategy that maximize local capital, that bring together all the local capital in the market. And we have to work on a culture of working together, building consortiums, building corporations, raising capital. And then secondly, maximize regional liquidity. So we have first local, then regional, creating that partnership. And then to the international investors with the experience, expertise, and technology, looking at their experience, technology, and expertise to partner with our local private sector to maximize the benefit that will be coming upstream and downstream. And if you look at some of the, we will, from the Wales development alone, we will, and in layman terms, cooking gas, we'll be able to lower significantly the price of cooking gas for the local population. We'll save US dollars from imports. We'll lower the costs. Just imagine the transport and logistics infrastructure that has to be built across the country. And then, of course, we'll have enough excess to either go back into the region or go to northern Brazil, where there's high demand. So creating new markets, new export, and a new stream of foreign currency earning. So that's just one example. Then we are of the view that we will have just enough gas remaining on the forest project for a small fertilizer plant that can satisfy national demand. So that is an input cost now. We'll save all of that US dollars from import. That's an input cost now that would go to agriculture to reduce. So, when people say about the one-off grants, these are all aspects in which you stimulate growth. If you can subsidize or bring down the cost as a result of this, of fertilizer for the farmers, then we're incentivizing agriculture production. And that is linked to our vision of becoming the breadbasket of the region and a major player in the food industry.
Right.
So these are some of the things that are exciting. And I think that in our next term and the trajectory of Guyana, I think there's great confidence in our vision, and there's great clarity in our vision. And those are two important things. And we are going to definitely build that resilient, sustainable Guyana. But there is one thing I want to add before I close.
Mhm.
We can achieve all of this, but still not be happy. What is it that is required to bring our country and all the people of our country to a state of national pride? And that is where the One Guyana concept, building in such a way that bring our people together. And that for me is the more important challenge. We will do all of this, but my greatest desire is to see our people united in the strongest possible way. To see a cultural shift in the way we treat the environment, in the way we treat each other, and to see a genuine support infrastructure from all stakeholders in building this inclusive Guyana. Issues of ethnic or religious biases are not for us. We are a small, determined population. And an important part of this strategy and an important part of the next term is to complete this project of unifying our people, of bringing our people together, and ensuring that all our people understand what it means to be Guyanese, what constitutes national pride. If I ask 10 persons to tell me who is a Guyanese, you may have 10 different answers. We must all understand what make us Guyanese, not what make us Afro-Guyanese, Indo-Guyanese, Portuguese, Amerindian, mixed Guyanese. What truly makes us Guyanese? When we say we are Guyanese, what do we represent? And for me, this is a task that is pressing. How do we unite our country? How do we use the development agenda to unite our country? Because I don't want us to be a prosperous society but an unhappy society. I want us to be prosperous and happy, unified and integrated. That is my hope. Thank you.
That's a powerful message to end on, Mr. President, and thank you for sharing that with our audience. It was certainly a pleasure to have you on our program, Mr. President, powering the Energy Perspectives podcast with your insightful vision for Guyana. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
And to our audience, it's a pleasure being here with you. As always, please join us next week, same time, same place, as we bring you more insights from thought leaders here and around the world. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Guyana Energy Perspectives podcast. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast.